1. Hello and welcome to LedgerCast. My name is Brian Krogsgaard here with Josh Olsowich. Hey Josh, how you doing?
Senior Krogsgaard, how are you?
I am doing well. It's a pleasure to be with you. Pleasure to be with the chat. We're trying a couple of new things today on the stream, so hope you'll forgive us if anything's terrible. But it's another day in the market. But before I forget, everybody go to flip.xyz. Sign up for a username if you haven't done it yet. We are going live next week. Breaking news. The live beta will be public next week, hopefully next Thursday. So go sign up right now. It's really good. I'm really excited. We've been expanding our test net for folks to try it out, and it's very close. Flip.xyz. Josh, you're clicking around a million different tabs. So what do you see on those tabs?
I'm just getting ready. I'm getting warmed up. I came prepped this week. I felt like the past couple times I've been kind of letting down the viewers here. You know, I haven't been bringing my A game, right?
You sent me a topic ideas list with like 20 things on it, so I imagine that you are very prepared.
Yeah, we can go through it, but it is so it's Good Friday. Happy Good Friday to whoever celebrates Good Friday.
Thank you. It is Good Friday. That means legacy markets are closed today, and
they are.
Crypto has its own life to live for the next 3 days.
Its own scam market. No, that's not what I said.
Could commit some heresy and say legacy markets shall rise again on Sunday.
Yeah, that's not. I do not condone that statement. I'm trying to pull up.
Me neither.
I'm trying to pull up my legacy. I don't know where I put it. I mean, that's the biggest problem. We'll get to that. We'll get to the legacy correlation. I wanted to touch on Miami real quick.
Did you have fun? Did you get COVID?
Miami was great. I don't think I got COVID. I'm fine. I tested myself when I got home the day after I got home, and I was negative on a rapid, so I'm good there. Lots of you, more than 10 of you actually, came up to me and said, "I appreciate everything you guys do. You know, either videos or podcasts or whatever." They said that Brian guy's a real meanie, and you tell it. No, they didn't say that.
Wow.
So yeah, no, it was great. It was really great. It was warm. I had a good time. Met a lot of folks. But at the same time, it was a conference, and I don't know. I was talking in the pre-show that I've lost my luster a little bit to deal with the maxis.
I'm about to kick up my conference game a little bit with Flip's launch, and I think I'll be at Consensus. If anybody's going to be at Consensus, so, and then somebody from Flip, probably a couple guys from our team, are going to be at NFT NYC, and we're looking at another one. I can't remember the name of it. So yeah, we'll be at a few of them over the next couple months. But no maxi conferences, no Bitcoin maxi conferences. Of course, I went to Bitcoin in Miami last year and didn't go to the actual conference. I just hung out with friends. So that's, I think, the way to do it. That way you don't get the maxis. You just get the people.
That's fair. But I feel like either side, like the DeFi people want to talk about DeFi stuff. The maxi people want to talk about maxi stuff.
You just want trade.
Really, for me personally, I enjoy the markets. Obviously, that's why we're here. There were a few big announcements: Cash App, Strike on Lightning Network. That's like old news at this point. I don't think that's going to move the needle price-wise, but it's cool infrastructure, underlying stuff going on. Tesla mining with solar panels. For me, that was probably the coolest announcement. Again, that's not going to like move the needle. It's not going to like affect price, I don't think, but it's just a interesting direction, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any headlines that caught your eye over the past week? 2 weeks, I guess, for Miami?
Nothing really.
That was a quick, hold on. That was a quick no. Take a couple seconds and think about that.
The Tesla mining solar panels, I didn't even blink about it. Like, it's just like, okay, whatever you say. Cash App with Lightning Network, I like. I think that's pretty cool. Like actual adoption potential type stuff. Unfortunately, nobody actually transacts on Bitcoin, so nobody will care or use it.
Wow.
But it's a good first step. make it fast and affordable, and maybe people will do it. Other than that, I didn't see a whole lot news wise. I saw some more Max Kaiser cringe, but not too much other than that. Did I miss something big?
Very on brand. No, I mean I was at the conference and I was in the conference most of the time. I didn't go to any of the talks, but I didn't really notice anything, major that was going on one way or the other.
No El Salvador style bombshells.
No, nothing. Pretty tame in general. The conference was massive. Most of it was miners, honestly, or mining related, but that may be hyperbole. It might have been like 50% mining related, but there was a massive NFT thing in the middle. You would have loved that from MoonPay.
Nice.
But yeah, no, it was cool. It was fine.
Good. I'm glad.
Taxes this week for people in the US.
Yeah.
Right?
Are we going to have a resurgence of prices now that people have supposedly paid their taxes?
I don't know, because I think I paid enough taxes this year to become Republican. It finally finally hit me.
Yeah.
It
Same.
finally hit me. And I was you always like, not you, but in general, people like naysay the whole tax season stuff maybe, but it's very true. You owe this bill, and what are you going to sell first? You're going to sell altcoins first. 100%. I'd maybe go as far as to say you'd sell NFTs, but I think NFT people are kind of hodlers in that respect.
I think a lot of them did, but they did it in December, January.
So to see the selling we've seen isn't all tax related, clearly, but taxes definitely have an influence on what's going on here, especially with altcoins, I'd imagine.
Oh, for sure.
Because everyone likes to think that they're prepared for tax, whatever, or not pay taxes or whatever the hell they're doing. But the truth is, there's, when you're in crypto, there's just all sorts of stuff you have to account for that most people just aren't very ahead of the game on, airdrops, all sorts of stuff, right? So yeah, that's definitely, it's real. It's very real, especially after a year of massive appreciation, right? Because a lot of us are paying.
My thing is, it's dangerous to wait until now to do the selling. Like, you realize those taxes by the end of the year, so you're just putting yourself at the whims of the market for the first 4 months until it's actually due. So that's how people go broke. So a logical world would have said the tax selling would have really occurred in December and January, but in reality, I think we're seeing significant pressure due to April. Of course, a lot of people, anyone with significant taxes at least, tends to file an extension. So you'll see potentially some additional effects in September or so. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. I'm an extension filer. I haven't filed on time in years.
No, I agree with the timing aspect of it. But for a lot of people, it becomes a reality. Like the month up to tax day, and more people, it becomes a reality. The week prior, right?
Yeah.
So to see the way we gave up 4,800 or 48K for BTC was massively disappointing. Just the swiftness, right? Like, I don't mind pullbacks. I don't mind market being in the market, but man, that's just like breathtakingly sad how we gave that up. And you could argue that's been this whole range, right? This whole range has just been straight up, straight down, day over day.
Well, I mean, look at that daily moving average. Are you providing the subpar moving average there, or is that the 200 SMA?
This is the 200 MA.
Okay. Well, interestingly enough, the SMA is similar.
So we hit some levels there. We hit the yearly pivot. We hit the MA. We got denied super, super hard very quickly, unfortunately, but that's the way it goes,
Yeah.
So I still think we have a shot at this ascending triangle moving to the upside. It's razor thin.
It feels like hopium, though, doesn't it?
The logic is poor. I'll take arguments on either side of that, but yeah, it is hopium at this point. I think I think this should break down. It wants to break down, but I'm not gonna count it out until it does.
I tend to agree with Angelo that Chop City is getting an explosion of residents. I like it that way because it's just, I mean, I traded this pretty well for a while, and then I think I made 3 spot trades poorly in a row, where it's like get convinced to get back in at on an ETH relative basis, maybe 3,200, and then capitulate 3,100, and then it goes back to 3,200, and you're like, oh, up we go again, and then it goes back down to 3,000. It's very easy to get kind of caught up trying to buy the bottom. But
well, I'm even worse off because I played the breakout, so I'm still margin long from 44 on BTC, and I'm still margin long on ETH from 31.
So when are you convinced that it's not going to happen the way that you believe? Just when it breaks down from that triangle?
Yeah. So if we make lower lows, the other thing is the daily cloud, which I've been watching, but I did reduce 30% of it a couple days ago. It's a mess. It's a mess because you're in this heavy profit, especially on that ETH position that's from 31, and it gave it all back.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be good. I wanted to be a good trader. I wanted to be a good trader. Follow my own advice. Q2 bullish. Blah blah blah. Right. I wanted to give it some breathing room. It looked good. Started strong, but man, just sad times.
Yeah.
The TA took over, I guess, on the BTC daily. And if I see another dormancy flow chart from somebody, Will Clemente, I'm just gonna name names.
Ooh.
Good
like
guy.
Will.
I'm sure he's a great guy. But if we actually go to 30K or lower with dormancy flows the way they are, the amount of times that they're bringing that out, I'm never gonna pay attention to it ever again. It's literally useless.
Are they using it as a bullish metric?
Yeah. So the whole idea is 64% of the chain hasn't moved in the past year. That's at an all-time high. That's a bullish. The argument is that that's bullish.
Could it be that the chain is less useful than ever before?
No, we don't need to throw strays at BTC here. Its job isn't to go out and multiply and prosper. Its job is to act for a lot of people as a store of value, right? And you can argue that one way or the other.
The digital rock.
Look, you can say whatever you want, but I'm telling you, the on-chain metrics back that up. So
I'm just taking devil's advocate stance here. I have nothing.
That's fair. You're not wrong. ETH's job is to go out and get hacked, right? Like ETH's job is to go out and mess around with it and buy NFTs, play in the casino. It's whatever. That's way different than BTC.
Yeah, Doppel has a good point here. Which on-chain analyst shows bearish metrics? Is it kind of in their interest to constantly show bullish metrics, or do they pull up the bearish one? You do. The Puel multiple, that's not really on-chain, but it's kind of this deterministic metric at least.
I mean, we can go through them all. None of them look bottoming enough to me. The ones that I pay attention to are active addresses and transactions per day. But even on ETH, transactions per day have been
decreasing.
Yeah. So
I've noticed in the gas fees being cheaper, which is bearish. Gas fees need to be higher, more expensive because it's more demand. So generally fees being low, it's good if transactions are up and it's just getting more efficient as software, but it's bad if it's like transaction counts are actually down.
I'm just pulling that up from, this is from Glassnodes.
That's pretty nice.
Transactions per day, trending down, making lows here. Not something you want to see. This is my argument. If we're consolidating on price, this should help tip off general sentiment, right? Sometimes it's leading, sometimes it's lagging. But if we're flat on price and you see transactions per day rising, I get bullish. If we see stuff like this, transactions per day falling off, I get less bullish.
Yeah. I think that's reasonable on-chain metrics to consider.
And we can look at BTC, it's flat, unexciting, kind of the same. It's not as bad as ETH in the near term, but at the same time, it's at a different level than ETH is. ETH is still at all-time highs, essentially from 2018, right? There's this baseline time high transactional stuff going on here. But trend-wise, in the near term, it is falling lower. Not something you want to see if you expect this to break up, I don't think.
Yeah.
So it's, I'm not exactly bullish on that. But then again, you want the bullish metric is exchange balances. It's never been this low since 2018, right? This is post ICO collapse levels of
Is that Bitcoin?
this is ETH.
ETH.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, yes and
But
no, right?
but
But
again,
you can sell Ethereum on chain pretty easily.
Right. Again, like there's more stuff you can do with ETH in different ways, blah, 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 blah. I get it. But at the same time, like this is a pretty clean up and down inverse,
Right. Does that make you, I mean, yeah, it's like, does that actually make you bullish Ethereum or bearish centralized exchanges?
That's fair. And BTC looks phenomenal in this respect as well. Look at like just stuff's just getting pulled off of exchanges. So if we were seeing a decline in transactions and deposits rising, I'd say, all right, this is a slam dunk case. But we have contra evidence one way or the other, because this to me should be bullish if there's just less to sell, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. I don't know. It depends on if we're going to go full bull or super cycle. Super cycle being this whole thing just chopped sideways for long enough that it becomes kind of reaccumulation and markup again without a 80% down move. Folks like a Rose here thinks that we need the 70% down further from here, which would probably put us at 80, 85% overall, equivalent of previous bear markets.
I agree that volume
you can do the same thing going sideways. Like the big institutions are kind of accumulating and retail's dying out. You can accomplish the same thing.
Well, that's the question, right? Is this accumulation engine?
Right.
I don't think there's a clean argument one way or the other there.
My personal opinion is that any time spent like in the 20Ks or lower would be time that's clear buying opportunity. So therefore, at these chop prices, it makes it seem like accumulation, even if it's not the best price they could get, it's the best place to get prices for a longer period of time to accumulate more fully. Whereas lower, I don't think we'll spend very much time there if we go lower, so that might end up being a spring effect for the move lower. So it could be reaccumulation that fails for a little bit, but not for very long, which is kind of why coffee in, isn't it? Right? Like the little failure spring type of things before it moves up.
Yeah, it is. I was trying to find this Justin Mammoth sentiment cycle. Have you seen this too?
Yeah, somebody linked this.
I'll talk about this real quick. I saw this. I was like, okay, this isn't a terrible argument for higher, right? I've seen a lot of people tweet at me when I'm bearish to say, oh, this is all just accumulation.
They want your coins.
Right.
What are those other assets or those other market cycles?
This is other cycles of BTC. But
they've leveled these out from a distance perspective. So it's basically saying this is a super long cycle. Yeah, Suzu tweeted it.
Yeah, it's just elongated at this point, which, is reasonable. We can pull up the rainbow chart. We can pull up all sorts of stuff and say, maybe we do a bunch of nothing till halving in 2024. I don't know.
I choose to believe. I'm fine with it. I mean, you can redraw this little wedgie thing, even if it's in the 20Ks, like that's the part that doesn't really matter. And that's why I think if you're patient enough, these are fine prices. You just might get a 50% haircut to the bottom. I've talked to Cred and Don on Weekly Open, and they make a pretty compelling case for how we could really play it out even worse. Like in a recessionary environment, for example, we could go to even 12, 14K, those kinds of prices. And that's pretty brutal. I just don't think that's likely. I don't think that's a likely scenario. I will buy the 200 week if it happens, and I will like it. Now I might not have the best possible pricing, but that's a bet that I'm willing to take. So this is kind of my look on that.
That's fair.
If it fails this is, which is the same thing that you showed in that chart. then just buy the 200-week moving average. And that ends up having that same kind of outcome, right? You kind of do this and then go.
I just think it's funny. There's like these new fractals that get pulled out. Like this sentiment cycle thing is super old. Like it's like 100 years old, right? Like it's funny how well it fits, and how it just shows up. I've never seen this before until this cycle, so maybe I'm just not in the loop. But for those of you on the pod, it is basically mirrored this fractal that we're currently in with Bitcoin from the top to the bottom pretty well. You know, it's not perfect, but very similar.
I like this from Hypno. There's always some old boomer fractal pattern.
It's true. It's true, right? It's even got this guy's name on it, right? So you know it's legit. It's legit.
Boomers always put their names on things.
The two things I'm most concerned with right now are hands down weekly B bands, which are A, tightening, and B, having us being held down below the 20 SMA. Collectively, that is setting up a prediction, a bias, however you want to think about that, an expansion of volatility to the downside. The next thing you want to look at when you see stuff like this is, okay, what does the back testing look like? And it's almost flawless. So this is telling you, be careful. It is time to pay attention in the next 4 weeks, for sure, because we are probably headed for a very big volatile move in the next month based on this. It happened 9 times. Arguably never wrong. And if we get multiple weeks closing below the 20 SMA while this is tightening, that's kind of game over.
I think Bitcoin and Ethereum are so under-owned relative. Like everybody owns altcoins that I could see a move if it was positive where it's just a move that's not participated in by non-Bitcoin, non-ETH. So like the layer 1 trade winds down. Some alts that deserve to be wrecked continue to get wrecked. That scenario is the one that makes the most sense to me. Not to say it will happen, but when I consider these types of things where Solana ran so heavy, and this looks much more distribution-ish than some of the others. Like I could see these types of charts breaking down and retracing some of their 2021 moves. Not all, but what if they retrace 60-70% of those moves?
Well, the argument against that retrace philosophy is that we never really had the blow off top. Like our previous two.
Yeah, but we've proven the blow off top meme wrong several times.
Okay. I'm just saying, like in 2013 and 2017, those bear markets were post massive mega exuberance, right? We did well at BTC, obviously, from 2020, but we didn't have that crazy.
Wait. What are you saying didn't have a blow off top?
I'm saying BTC. No.
Oh, I thought you were talking about
Solana, Terra, like all those are still up bajillion percent.
No. That's what I'm saying. I don't think we have to have had a blow off top. I'm not trying to speak bearishly about Bitcoin and ETH. I'm saying they could run while alt relative pairs languish. So like,
yeah, that's fair. But I'm just saying, like, we didn't have this massive blow off top, so we're not gonna have this rubber band like all the way back down again on BTC, right? For alts,
yeah,
like 100% agree. Alts need some cooling for sure. For sure. Let the VCs dump whatever they're gonna dump over multiple months, right? I don't know. Just let it happen at this point.
Yeah, like I could imagine Solana, maybe it even goes up relative to the dollar, but the BTC pair or the ETH pair continues to get wrecked. After such a big move in alts for a whole year, I think it's perfectly reasonable to think that they lag for a year or 2 years after that. You think of the historical Doge cycle where Doge did really well for a small period of time and then went down into some kind of range for ever after that. That was its cycle for years and years. And then we had 2021 and everything mooned, not just Doge, but like everything. And I could imagine a scenario where these just have to calm down. And not just Doge, everything, right? Everything. Just the dominance scale needs to exist again.
Well, a good exercise is to go on the market cap, pick anything, CMC, CoinGecko, Masari. Look at all the coins that are above $1 billion in market cap right now. It'll take your breath away.
Take your breath away. And very much so. Like the fake Mark Cuban says in chat. Thank you for the fake Mark Cuban. I really like your participation. Says just like the DeFi ETH pairs the last 18 months. And I think that's completely reasonable as a example, right? Something does really, really well, and then you can still like it fundamentally. You can still be bullish in the long sense. That doesn't stop it from getting absolutely turbo wrecked for a year or more on a relative basis, which is what Aave did, right? Like it basically went back to pre-listing lows. Now this looks like a pretty good trade. Like I would rather buy this on a relative basis than buy Solana on a relative basis. Just looking at charts, nothing else included. This looks like it's kind of bled out to the degree that it's willing to bleed out and maybe has some upside. This looks like it's just getting started on the downside. Like, I mean, legitimately, if I invert that, it's like the inverse of Aave.
It's the inverse, bro.
It's the inverse, bro.
Yeah, but one's a layer one and one's DeFi, you know?
Yeah.
To play the other side of the coin.
Yeah. I think the layer one trade might just have to chill.
That's the difference. So B-band's very important. Weekly, pay attention, blah, blah, blah. This is going to dictate the entire market, no doubt, right? If BTC moves lower, nothing's going to be spared, really. The second thing to watch, if I can find it, is the weekly cloud, which a lot of people tagged me on Twitter about. We had a bearish TK cross, price above the cloud. We've only had like 5 ever bearish crosses, if not less than that. They've all been 100% accurate as far as downside, except one maybe.
RIP.
So look, if we break below the cloud, which is essentially lower lows, it's not rocket science. If we break 35, I get super bearish. I get super bearish to the point where it's easily the 200-week moving average. So I'm looking at maybe even 15K, because that measures to 60% from the bearish cross, which is kind of just one way to measure all these. It's not good. And as people are saying in the chat, we're fighting the Fed too. You know, that's something to pay attention to. Obviously, as rates are rising, QE is becoming QT or whatever they're calling it.
Well, they're trying to battle inflation. So there was some chatter this week about maybe CPI topped. So obviously inflation is still high, over 8%, but if it's topped, then that can give the room, that market room to go to move positively. But I mean, I think whether all this breaks up or down, honestly, we're so tied to legacy. It's just not much we can do about it. A couple things I want to talk about. One is that legacy correlation and macro-y stuff. And then we'll come back and talk about ETH PTC and merge failure. Or merge delays.
Failure.
Merge delays.
I'm all for it. Let's go.
Merge delays.
Now you're talking about language. Merge failure.
That's the words you want to hear. So if we do macro a little bit, dollar pushing through some levels that were important to me.
Well, let's just like frame this. It's important to know we're inverted with DXY historically. We're inverted with VIX historically. And we're inverted with a 30-year treasury historically. Is that right? The 30-year treasury? Lately. We're also correlated with the NASDAQ. Historically too. It's important to like know that.
Yeah. Kyle Davies from 3AC called out Jump Crypto as managing forcing a crypto to NASDAQ correlation spread trade, which could definitely put more of a strain on that trade. So he was just like, when are we going to pump crypto and blow that strategy out? I thought that was interesting. It seemed like an attempt to call it out. Maybe it's being that correlations being kind of forced into place rather than more seamlessly by the market being put into place.
Well, it's true. It's maybe it's not Jump, maybe it's just everybody, right? It's 100% true.
Well, his point was that Jump was putting enough pressure on the trade to make it become reality, right? Which would suck. Like, I don't really like that, but it's been working. It's making us look like just another risk-on asset. But that was an interesting kind of call out. I don't really know what to make of it, but it's interesting. Dixie is pretty clear above 100 now, 100.5 at the moment. Also looks extremely hot, like ready to cool down, which could signal potential reversal. At the same time, the S&P 500 looks atrocious. Is that the way to put this? Like, that's not good.
It's chopping around like an altcoin, you know?
Yeah, but it looks like, I mean, this week closed just hammer down. It could just be a long chop range that it's meant to scare us a little bit here, but it's not a nice look. Gold miners doing really well on the back of gold itself. Once again, pushing its highs. Once again, kind of recovering off of that spike higher, and looks like it might actually be for real this time. Now, this is more properly a cup and handle. So we talked about the forever. You could call that a cup and handle. I don't really like those forever charts. I actually like this one a bit better as a potential cup and handle. So more low time frame type of thing. So maybe we'll finally get the gold move that all the gold people have been anticipating forever.
Since 1902.
Right. So there's a lot of sell pressure at 2K. There was some good theories a while back about why entities that have a lot of power don't really want gold to move quickly. So that makes me hesitant to like want to play that too much, because it'll kind of grind up and then spike down to shake speculators out so that they can accumulate more strongly, which would make sense if you're like a nation state or something. Oil back to 106. Looks like maybe it has bottomed after a really volatile spike down after it topped at 130 something, back to basically what I thought was a really important level where it broke down from back in 2014. I'm still of the opinion that oil is going to do really well over the coming years. So I don't know. There's a lot of different things happening in legacy land, but on the whole, it's not the most bullish thing to say that, like, oh yeah, well, the dollar might slow down soon as kind of your most bullish thing to go back to crypto. But if it does, I do think we can get a positive move, and maybe we break some correlations and improve a little bit. What are you thinking? Was that a decent summary?
Yeah, that's fair. I think the biggest problem is the correlation to legacy just in general, because there's it's all doom ahead of us. I don't see any, unless they turn the printer back on. How is that bullish for anything?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. I was going to pull up the 2-year MA multiplier on BTC just to see where that's at, because we're getting close to that as well. I would just encourage people to zoom out as much as you can. Be patient.
Chat wants to know if your cloud settings work on legacy markets.
I will say they do. Even the crypto settings. The thing people don't realize is, and I still get people tweeting at me about this, all I'm doing really is doubling the time frame. Like, it looks like I'm changing a bunch of stuff, but ultimately what you're doing there is you're just doubling the time frame.
And you're smoothing it out for 7-day markets, not 5-day markets.
Yeah, you are, but really what you're doing there is just doubling the time frame. And yes, you're also smoothing it out. But man, there are angry people who think I'm just the devil for changing those settings. Like, guys, I don't care. Trade whatever you want to trade, right? Like, it doesn't matter what your settings are to me. This is just what's worked to me, for me, So I do think they work in legacy. I think a lot of people try to use it in alts on low time frames to get run over, but
If we're bearish, Josh, 33K by July.
33K by July. I mean, what's that? 33K is like
only a 20%.
Barely even a low at this point.
People just want to take every opportunity to say 33K by July to you.
That's fair.
Doesn't matter how many years it's been or what qualifiers existed back then. 33K by July guy.
I did it to myself. I'll freely admit that.
It just means you were really good at creating a slogan. You have a future in marketing and advertising, maybe.
Well, I said 50K by May, and if the ascending triangle plays out,
might get that.
Still possible, but we're getting close on the 2-year MA multiplier for BTC. So we're slowly resetting. Something else I want to talk about real quick is the MACD on the weekly. Because all this mega chop, you can't see it. What do you mean?
I've adjusted the layout.
Oh, my bad. All this mega chop means we've reset the oscillators basically completely, both up and down. This is just another way to say volatility is really on a high time frame, just kind of flat. As crazy as it looks on a week-to-week basis, ultimately we're just going a bunch of nowhere, and the oscillators like MACD are telling you that. So I would love for this to break up, right? Like this says we've held flat essentially long enough. We've met the conditions for MACD to say we've reset momentum in both directions at this point.
You want to see a chart that makes me nervous?
Sure.
Just as a person with, emotions. You look at the lifetime chart of Bitcoin, and it's like every time it pauses up here, and you're like, "Ooh, bear market almost over." It's like,
it hasn't started yet.
Yeah, it's like this thing could literally go down in USD for 10 years. I know that makes no sense, but these kinds of charts just freak me out. Like, find a new asset class is what it makes me want to think, But anyway, just random thing that I see when I start looking at old charts, like forever log charts. This is a monthly, and honestly, on the long term, the monthly is either pretty good support, or when it breaks, it's the sign that we're in the stages of like capitulation and going to spend the next 3-4 months capitulating before we move back up. It's just a 20-month moving average. So that's the type of thing that kind of like it's saying we're at the equivalent of 6K when we're at, 30 to 35K. I think if we break it, we're probably not going to spend too much longer under there. My 200-week moving average, we're finally to a point to where it's starting to move up. Back when we really peaked the Coinbase IPO, the 200-week was at 12K. Today it's at 21 and change. So by the time we were able to get to it, I think I could imagine a world where it's 23, 24K, and the breakdown would equate kind of similarly to the way it worked when we bottomed at 3,100. To where if you're just going to rely on the 200-week moving average, 21 to 25K would be a reasonable kind of capitulation bottom if we break out down from this multi-year crab range. Or we just wait until it gets all the way up and we spend the next year and a half in the range, which would also be very painful for people. But I'm going to buy that 200 week whenever it happens, I guess is my point. Yeah,
I mean, that's a high time frame, essentially never wrong indicator, which is dangerous to say, but
it's what it is. So you got to make a trade somewhere.
Yeah, I agree. Like if we get down that low, for sure.
That's the next. Honestly, that's the only place where I'll be like really high confidence is there on the downside, or if we just consolidate and break up to new highs. Everything else between now and then is just a trade to me, not an investment. And I thought I was going to like put more stuff aside this year and like let it sit. But then I realized I want to maintain my buying power. So I'm just still actively trading again this year because we haven't either broken down or reaccumulated well enough to where I feel comfortable holding for a year following. So my next long-term capital gain is going to be either when it breaks down to that, or we have a nice solid breakout that I feel comfortable holding on to.
So you're saying is you're part of the problem. Your dry powder, your money on the sidelines is part of the problem.
But my money's not always on the sidelines. It's
No, I know.
I just won't. I'm not gonna like bag hold on the way down. I'm gonna trade actively, and then if we get that move down, I'm gonna be an active participant, making long-term purchases at those levels.
But your sentiment is likely to be shared amongst many,
which creates the potential for this volatility.
Sure. I like anything above 47. I think it's game on to all-time high retest for BTC. But right as we sit here right now, I say I'm not betting on that as I'm margin long for 44. But
yeah, I don't think you can really have high conviction in much of anything at the moment.
No, we're near the bottom of the cloud, which is not a good look. To be failing a daily edge-to-edge trade, that doesn't happen kind of ever. It happened in the 33K by July case, I think, but I don't really think it happened too much. That's not a good sign, is what I'm trying to say. This is bad.
Yeah.
But if we stay sideways in the 42, 44 range up until May, I think we might be okay. But ultimately, you do not want lower lows. You don't.
Right. Final question. Do you think the potential delay in the Ethereum 2.0 merge will matter? Or do you agree that this ETH-BTC chart still looks pretty bullish?
I think that chart looks phenomenal.
Me too.
I think if there aren't any problems with the merge, or if there's a problem and it's solved quickly, I think that easily goes to new all-time highs against BTC. It's stayed in that tight range for over a year now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily any sort of pattern. Maybe it's an ascending triangle in there, but it certainly doesn't look bearish, right? It's like the gold case. There aren't bearish fractals you can argue there. You can argue cup and handle inside a cup and handle, but you can't argue like Adam and Eve or M double top.
Before people get too excited about the dollar basis there, 0.15 could easily be, what's that? 3K, ETH, 15K, Bitcoin. So it could be a very bearish outcome on a dollar basis. So,
yeah, I mean, ETH, Kobe's talked about this, I'm sure, previously. I think he was one of the first ones to even talk about it, but where we're bearish all over the place, but we're just, less bearish on ETH versus BTC. And that's how you gain in the pair. But I think that chart looks great.
Yeah, agreed. I still have a hard time convincing myself to hold Bitcoin instead of Ethereum. So typically when I'm in crypto, I'm largely thinking on an Ethereum basis.
As good as that looks, ETH still basically followed BTC down. So
yeah, on a dollar basis.
It was more resilient on a dollar basis than BTC has been. It looks better where it's at. The edge-to-edge move actually played out perfectly on ETH on the daily.
Nice.
So those are all good signs.
So what are you going to look for next week?
Next week?
Yeah. You think any resolution? Will any resolution occur here or no?
I don't think so. I really don't. Something else to watch is the alligator fractal on the weekly, because that'll tell you what you already know again, which is another way of saying we don't want to make lower, because if we do, then that's just this indicator is telling you be bearish at below 34.1, which is kind of a no-brainer. Yeah, I'm just watching where we are relative to the 20 SMA. It's interesting.
Same. We're both looking at the same thing, Josh.
On the weekly, yeah. Well, when you're chopping around, you just have to zoom out, It's interesting that the Terra stuff, the LFG buying, that narrative kind of died down, even though they're still buying BTC. I didn't realize this, but they're also buying AVAX, which I thought's kind of bizarre.
Yeah. I don't like singular entities having too large of an impact on an asset. And that's why I don't like the LFG buys. I don't like the Michael Saylor buys. Like, you need thousands or millions of participants, not one. If one entity is your driving power, it just makes it so weak to me.
Yeah, I agree. It's not a good look, especially long term when they're inevitably going to sell one of these days, right? Terra's going to blow up one of these days. They're going to have to bail themselves out with the BTC reserves. That's just the way it is.
Yep.
So that's probably going to be at the worst time, the most bearish time, right? Like the way we get to 15 is if Terra gets blown out and they have to sell their reserves, and that just is like this margin cascade on BTC, right? Like that's the ultimate nightmare.
Yes. Don't want that to happen.
No.
Oh, with that, we appreciate y'all joining us on this episode. Good luck out there. Have fun. It was a pleasure. Talk to you soon.
Monuments crumble in the